Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1197A. And today's date is February 6, 2017. And the title of the episode is Another State is Dumping the Fed Dollar and Making Gold and Silver Legal Tender. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, out in Greece, we see that everything isn't as great as the corporate media is telling the world. And this is really not a surprise. Because what we're seeing right now is that Greece, well, they're at a crossroads. And we see that former Finance Minister Yanis Varoufakis, he is out there and he is urging Prime Minister Tsprias to turn his back on Greece's lenders. What does he want him to do? He wants him to adopt a parallel payment system and to unilaterally restructure the loans held by the European central banks. And we can see right now that this whole thing is completely falling apart. And I wouldn't be surprised if Greece decides to leave the EU, because we see other countries, they're heading in that direction. Now, I know the job numbers came out and they ticked up a little bit to 4.8%. And everyone is out there saying that the unemployment is still very strong. The central bank is out there. The Fed is out there saying that, yes, unemployment is very strong. But we're getting information that, well, maybe the U.S. labor market is not as good as they're saying. Well, we know this. We know it's completely manipulated. We know that these numbers aren't truthful. But what we're seeing right now is that Deutsche Bank, well, they are warning that America's biggest companies, well, they're slowing down for the first time and they're not hiring as many people. And this is going to be a problem. And this is casting some serious doubt on just how strong the hiring environment is. Yahoo's Miles Udlin notes that Deutsche Bank illustrates that employment at big U.S. companies is plunging for the first time since the recession. And we've been watching this. We've been tracking this. We knew this years ago. Because when you look at the numbers and you look at the unemployment and you look at the layoffs, and you see what Challenger, Gray, and Christmas have been reporting for many years, that layoffs are continually happening, and we continually show that there's layoffs, that these jobs that are being created are part-time, and the numbers are being manipulated to make it look like people have work, we're starting to see the truth come out. And for the first time since the recession, large companies, they have negative job growth since the recession. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see all this data that the BLS has been putting out, the central bank. I wouldn't be surprised if this data starts to move in the opposite direction, where unemployment continually moves up. The corporate media starts to come out and start to tell you that things aren't as good as it was before under Obama. Because what they're doing is they're preparing for this crash. They're preparing for what is coming. And they need to create this narrative, this story of why all of a sudden this is happening. And if you could see how this is all being prepared. Now, we're already in a recession. It's not if or when. We're already in it. It's hard to believe because a lot of things can be hidden that's going on out in the corporate world, where people are not standing on bread lines, they're not standing on soup lines, because the government, and this is under Obama and many other presidents, well, they expanded how much people are receiving. So think about all the number of people that are on food stamps. They just go to the store and they swipe a card, it looks like a credit card, and nobody knows the difference. So you really have no idea what's going on. People who've been laid off, who are not working, well, they stay very, very quiet. You don't know that this is happening. A lot of people don't like to admit that they lost a job. It's embarrassing. But there's many people who are not working at that same job, might be working at a part-time job, or living off their severance right now and hoping that they find something. But what we're seeing at this point is that things are deteriorating very, very rapidly. And the stock market, well, that's not an indication of anything. It's an indication of manipulation, fraud. It's the government, the central bank, to convince the people that everything is fine. But everything in the background, everything behind the stock market, well, that's the real economy. That's the real people. And this is why we see everything contracting right now. And when we look at this, we can see that the job numbers are completely fake. We see large companies, well, they're not hiring like they used to. Actually, they're in the negative area. And we're seeing that a lot of these statistics that they're throwing at us, well, they don't even make sense anymore. And we see at this point that they're shooting for a GDP of 4 to 5%. First of all, they're never going to reach that. It's completely impossible. We're seeing that tax receipts, well, they indicate the U.S. is in a recession. Gross private domestic investment indicates we are in a recession. Retailers are showing that the U.S. consumer is tapped out. UPS, another economic bellwether, dramatically lowered its 2017 forecast. Put simply, the real economy, it's rolling over right now. And we're going to see the whole thing come crumbling down. Now we have Harry Dent is out there. We have Charles Nenner. We have Cliff High, all saying that the market, something's going to happen to the economy moving into like the third quarter of this year. And Harry Dent is calling for a 50% correction right now. And a lot of people are calling for these huge corrections. And what we're seeing right now is that we're in one of the longest economic expansions in history. And you know what follows these long economic expansions? Well, they've been followed by declines of 30% or more. And we're in the third longest in history at 92 months. So we can see that the odds are in the favor of the market coming down and coming down quite a bit. We see London's gold bullion market, which is centuries old, is said to be seeking transparency with plans to reveal how much gold bullion is held in its vaults. Now, I would like to see this. I would like to see how much gold London actually has. And the move is being led by the London Bullion Market Association, and it is said that it will provide data for the first time on how much gold is traded in the London gold bullion. Now, the question is, why are they doing this now? Are they getting prepared for this new system? And I'd like to see if they actually do this. Now, out in Arizona, there is a bill that would eliminate state capital gain taxes on gold and silver and encourage its use as currency. Now, it passed the House committee this week, and final approval of the legislation would help undermine the Fed's reserves monopoly on money. So we see another state right now pushing in the same direction. Gold and silver, legal tender. Let's get rid of the Fed dollar. And I'm calling it not even the US dollar anymore. It is the Fed dollar. So Representative Mark Fitcham introduced House Bill HB 2014 on January 9th. The legislation would eliminate the capital gains and make gold and silver legal tender. So we can see at this point, they're doing the same as Utah, Texas, and there are other states that are moving in the same direction. Now the question is, why are we seeing this happen? Do they know something? Are they looking at what's going on here and saying, you know something? The Fed dollar is done. We better protect ourselves. We better have another currency waiting to go live. Because think about it, if the Fed dollar completely implodes on itself, people can use gold and silver to transact business. Now, do people have gold and silver? That's a whole nother question. And this is why all along we've been telling people, get your silver, get your gold. Because when things start to fall apart, that paper and ink, well, that's going to implode. It's going to be worth nothing. And gold and silver, well, that's physical. You have it. It's in your hands. You're holding it. Now, Deutsche Bank, they are out there. They took a full-page ad to apologize for its market rigging, ripping many people off, and they're apologizing right now, trying to get the sympathy of the people. But we can see right now, you know what? They knew what they were doing. I know they paid billions worth of fine, but they made most likely hundreds and hundreds of billions from doing that. So, you know something? I don't really feel sorry for them. We see the EU, well, they're stepping up the pace for a cashless society, and they want this completed in 2018. So they're not even waiting. They're moving forward with their agenda. Now we see Mario Draghi, he is out there, and he is saying that the European Central Bank, well, they're not going to be responsible for the next financial crisis. And we've said this before, the central bankers, they don't want to take responsibility whatsoever. And of course, as we know, that the European Central Bank, they have about 36% of assets on their books. And what we're looking at right now is they have a gigantic portfolio, or roughly about 14 trillion in global central bank liquidity sloshing around. And that, I guess that wouldn't be the catalyst for the next market crash. But rather, they're looking at Donald Trump and saying the reason for the next financial crisis is going to be because of Donald Trump's deregulation of the banking industry. And it has nothing to do with the central bank. The central bank has made a full recovery, and if anything should happen, it's because of what Trump is doing right now. Now, we said this is where they were going to head. This is what they were going to do. They were going to try to blame everything on someone else, another country, another group. Now, that all fell apart. They couldn't blame Russia. Trump is talking to Putin, and that whole story completely fell apart with all the cyber attacks where Russia's trying to start war. If you notice that all those stories kind of evaporated at this point. Now they're trying to push Iran and China, but that's at the beginning stages. So they need to turn their whole entire viewpoint onto Trump to say he is the one who is responsible. Now they're waiting for him to go a little bit further in what he wants to do. They're waiting for him to push his agenda, because they can't do it too soon to say, oh yes, the economy just came down because of Trump, because he's only been in there, 13, 14 days or so? It's not enough time. And this is why we're looking at the entire picture, saying come this summer, moving into the fall, most likely we're going to see things really heat up and start to fall apart, where the central bank is going to start pointing fingers at Trump. And during this period of time, we're going to see these statistical numbers start to move up, like unemployment, GDP is going to get worse, and the stock market most likely is going to be bouncing around, making big up and down moves, and we're going to start to see things start to really fall apart, because we know what is coming right now. This entire economy, nothing has changed. The entire system is one gigantic illusion. The entire economy is built on a house of cards, and it will come crashing down. And we can see they're already preparing the narrative, the story of where they're going to be pointing the finger. And we can see it's going to be at the Trump administration. But we know the truth. We know what is happening. So this is why everybody needs to get prepared and ready for what is coming. You need your food and water. Why food and water? Well, when we see hyperinflation, you don't want to say, okay, I'm going to run out there and buy a $90 loaf of bread. No, have it in your house. Have the food in your house so you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Have gold and silver to protect your wealth. When people start running to the market, wiping out the shelves, you have water, you have the supplies. You can use the supplies to barter. All you need to do is start preparing to get ready for what is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.